brave they're not to ride the unrideable road, to love pure and chaste love, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star. Don't matter how hopeless, don't matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march in hell for an heavenly cause. And I know if I only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I lay to my rest. And the world will be better for peace, that one man born and covered with scars still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.
Einstein. 1,000 times a day, I remind myself that my material and spiritual life depend on the fatigue of other men, living and dead, and that I must work to give in equal measure that which I have received and continue to receive. Albert Einstein. In 1959, Dr. Virgil Slee, head of the Commission on Professional and Hospital Activities, reported that millions of unnecessary operations are performed every year, causing 48,000 deaths a year, or nearly 1,000 deaths a week. And that was 1959. Just imagine where we are today. Professional formation. How did that tree get so big without medicine? We've talked about what illness is, and now we're ready to ask, what can the human body do to cure itself? By increasing efficiency in those categories in which it was lacking, or removing the drain on energy caused by overload, things start to improve. The body can take advantage of its daily capacity to make up for old debts. It's like paying your debts in installments. The more intelligently you behave, the stronger you were before, the more quickly you can recover. And often, what you need to get back to normal is not very far away as it seemed. And in fact, this is one of the most dramatic aspects of chiropractic. And I was really amazed the first time I, quote, achieved, end quote, these kinds of dramatic results. So much so that I made a pact with God to leave America and come here to Sicily, which is quite a jump, isn't it? Don't imagine that I came here because I love the mountain or because the weather is good. This was a big material sacrifice for me and a significant spiritual investment. It was an act of faith because I didn't know anyone here, I didn't speak the language, and I had a huge college debt. Now, let's see what happened. A woman, perfectly normal, so it seemed, had given birth to her first daughter in an atmosphere of great love and spirituality, and after the birth, her menstrual cycle didn't come back. 1 year, 2 years, 3 went by, and her husband, who was a friend of mine through music, asked me to have a look at her. So, we did x-rays, urine and blood tests, orthopedic and neurological examinations, and then it was time to look at the spinal column. When I adjusted the cervical vertebra, there was nothing special to be noticed, and the same for the dorsal vertebra. But when I adjusted her lumbar vertebra under the supervision of one of the clinic experts, there was so much noise that it sounded like cracking wood. I have to admit that I was frightened. As for her, though, that evening she had a foul, smelling, yellowish discharge, and the next day her husband thanked me because her menstrual cycle had returned. Now, I've explained things to you in this order to make you understand that if that link in the chain alone was missing or misplaced because of some overload, in the moment that that short circuit was corrected, obviously her cycle came back to normal. This is the marvelous thing about chiropractic. It allows the body to reveal itself and heal itself. Now I see clearly. Our guest today comes from faraway Messina. I asked him to collaborate with us not only out of friendship, but also because the changes he has experienced are quite significant. His name is Biagio Mento, and I'll let him tell you what happened to him.
Sì, dunque io il 21 marzo 1995 sono venuto qui dal dottore.
I came to see Paul for the first time on March the 21st because I was very unwell, with severe back problems and bad headaches which had been going on for several years. The treatment I had been having was practically useless because although I got better for a while, within a month everything was as bad as before.
Piano piano, subito ho avuto miglioramenti grazie al dottor Paul, perché con i suoi massaggi, con la sua terapia, con le sue teorie sull'alimentazione.
Before coming here I spent a week in bed. I gradually, actually immediately felt an improvement, thanks to Paul's massage, his treatment, his theories about diet. I felt a practically instantaneous improvement. The pain got less.
E nel giro di un mese e mezzo devo dire che mi sono sentito molto meglio, sono quasi guarito e il dottore mi ha insegnato cosa fare eventualmente mi venisse qualche fastidio.
As I followed the treatment, I realized I was beginning to lose weight. In fact, I had a belly that was really big, and within a month and a half, I was practically cured. I felt much better, and the doctor taught me what to do if I should have any pain or discomfort.
Quindi cosa basilare è stata l'alimentazione e fare le cose con una certa moderazione. Insomma, mantenere quell'equilibrio che mi ha creato il dottore.
It's important to stress that once the doctor had restored my inner balance, it was quite easy to maintain it, and I kept scrupulously to his instructions. The first thing was the diet, and doing everything in moderation. The treatment lasted a month and a half, perhaps 2 months, I can't remember now, and since then I haven't had any more pain. If I sometimes had any minimal discomfort, I know the cause and I know how to resolve it, and this is important, without needing to take medicines and without any outside help.
Non posso fare altro che invitarlo per iniziare questo tipo di cura che praticamente si basa sulla medicina naturale, massaggi corporei.
I'm very glad to have had this treatment, and if anyone has problems of the same kind, I can't do better than suggest that they do it too. It's based on natural medicine, massage, and above all, on an awareness of one's own abilities and limits, so as to avoid wasting energy, a disordered lifestyle, and the damage that's done by abusing our capacities.
E questo è il punto essenziale, secondo me, che, ripeto, me l'ha insegnato il dottore.
Let's put it this way. At the beginning of this interview, Biagio gave me the credit for the system of adjusting the vertebra, which in fact is something that the body does by itself. Then he credited me with a new kind of diet, which in reality is the way everyone ate here before the Second World War. So all I've really done is to transfer professional responsibility from myself to him, and it's he who has learned to look after himself very well, and he loves to scuba dive.
Before I met Paul, all the doctors had told me to avoid scuba diving. Mountain walking as well was something the doctors had absolutely forbidden me. And this was the main reason I came to see Paul, because the idea of not being able to do these things made me really depressed, and that's why I came here. Then I saw immediately that Paul had managed to free up my back, and that I could walk much better.
Poco credolo, però dopo i primi miglioramenti che ho praticamente visto subito quando mi hai sbloccato la schiena, io i dolori non ce l'avevo più, riuscivo a camminare.
And the last question? How many kilos have you lost?
I lost about 14 kilos, that's 30 pounds, without knowing how. Now I eat much more than before, and much better, and my weight is stable at about 59 kilos. That's about 125 pounds. I'm 36 years old, and I've never felt so good. I can repeat that as often as you want. I have never felt so good. I forgot to say that a short time ago I had a cyst on the right hand. The surgeon told me that it should be surgically removed. I asked Dr. Rodberg about it, and he told me which lymphatic drainage point of the shoulder I should massage. And in 20 days the cyst was reabsorbed, and it hasn't grown back. I find it surprising, but it's true. The cyst has disappeared.
Homework. Number 1, don't eat butter or oil that has been fried or heated. Number 2, fruit should only be eaten on an empty stomach. Number 3, proteins and carbohydrates should always be separated. Number 4, if you do not feel well in any way, don't eat proteins until later. Number 5, don't eat when you are angry, tired, or unhappy. Number 6, don't eat immediately before sleeping. Number 7, drink 4 liters of water per day, per weight approximately 1 liter for every 15 kilos or 30 pounds, on an empty stomach or 3 hours after the main meals, adding between 30 and 100 grams of honey per liter, and if you like, lemon juice. This is not for diabetics. Number 8, keep wrapped ice packs on the abdomen to the right and left of the navel for 6 to 24 hours a day, not if you're pregnant. Ice packs must be so well wrapped that no cold is felt. Number 9, decongesting massage with weights from 1/2 hour to 2 hours a day. My first patient, myself. I'm going to go on explaining what's happened to me so that you can understand why I'm so sure of myself when I talk about your health. Maybe you find it irritating that I seem to know a lot of things beforehand without having had a lot of tests done. It probably seems very strange to you, in fact. Last time I was talking about how by detoxifying the body and putting the spine in the right position and freeing the intestines from fermentation and putrefaction, and in this way giving the diaphragm a chance to breathe better, I managed to achieve something that all my life had seemed inconceivable to me: the elimination of a so-called genetic problem, my allergies. This pleasant state lasted for a year, when Frank Sabatino got his degree, and I, as the head of the musical department, had the pleasure of arranging, rehearsing, and directing the musical theme of the film Rocky, Gonna Fly Now, to celebrate his degree, and it was a great party. Then he left, and I quickly realized how special a person he was, who had taught me to adjust the spine, and he made me realize what it meant. He had taught me to eat intelligently, to fast without being afraid. He had taught me applied kinesiology, which is my specialization. He had been my mentor, my guide for all those years. The doctor assigned to me afterwards was nothing like him. Less time, less attention, less skill. And a year later, my allergies came back. I was really confused because I had swallowed the idea of the illness and the cure, and it never occurred to me that there were other variables at work here. Seeing that I couldn't count on my new doctor, I went back over all the lessons I had received from Frank Sabatino, and I put them into practice very carefully, and the allergy disappeared again. And so I understood the one thing that I really want to communicate to you in this program and in all my work in Catania, Sicily, over the last 20 years. And that's that it depended exclusively on me. I needed to understand by myself where I was in terms of energy and toxic levels, what my body was capable of, and that I needed not to exceed my limits. I couldn't give the long-term responsibility for results to another person. It was my responsibility. I understood it well, and that was 23 years ago, and I've never suffered from allergies since.
Il mio prossimo ospite ed io ci siamo conosciuti.
My next guest and I met 8 or 10 years ago when his father and I were good friends. One day I saw that his father was very upset, and he told me that his son Mauro had a problem. Now Mauro is going to talk to us about this problem.
E Mauro ci parlerà di questo.
Bene, praticamente devo risalire a quando appunto mi hanno riscontrato questa inizialmente bronchite curata male. Poi un professionista in mezzo a tanti ha scoperto che non era una bronchite.
At the time, the doctors diagnosed neglected chronic bronchitis. Then a specialist, among the many I consulted, diagnosed pleurisy, more precisely, massive pneumonia with pleural outpouring.
Del liquido dalla pleura. Però, detto appunto dal primario, il fatto che togliendomi il liquido io sono svenuto e quindi me ne è rimasto. E allora rimanendo del
I spent 2 months in hospital. I followed all their therapies, and they even removed some of the excess pleural liquid. But as the surgeon said, I had passed out, and they couldn't remove enough of it.
Di quelli proprio. E poi non potevo ne andare in moto, non potevo andare la sera fuori perché non potevo prendere colpi d'aria, cioè tante cose che un po' mi limitavano del tutto.
Consequently, the doctors recommended that I rest for a year. That meant no more sports, and I've always been involved in all kinds of sports. I couldn't ride my motorbike or go out in the evening, and all of this made me very unhappy.
Dei medicinali, perché io mi ricordo che ero andato avanti con cortisone e avevo una busta piena, mi ricordo benissimo questo particolare, che avevo una busta di medicinali da prendere. Io sono uscito dall'ospedale che ancora non avevo finito per niente.
Then we met. And I remember that you told me that if you were I, you wouldn't take any of the medicines that I'd been taking. I had a whole bag of medicines to take when I came out of hospital, many of which were cortisone-based. I had to make some sacrifices. You told me I would have to go on a diet, which is not easy. But I was attracted to your approach, because you told me that I could obtain excellent results in a month. And I'd already spent more than a year without any significant progress.
Mi aveva detto che non avrei potuto fare. In effetti io ho lasciato, non ho preso più medicinali, ho fatto appunto le sedute
Abbiamo sistemato la colonna vertebrale, sbloccato il diaframma.
I decided to stop taking medicine and to begin the chiropractic and applied kinesiology work with Paul. First adjusting the vertebral column, then freeing the diaphragm, and all the things that you know how to explain better than I.
Praticamente ho iniziato ad andare in moto anche contro a 2000 persone che mi davano del...
E quando ti lanciavi dalla montagna?
E poi ovviamente ho iniziato a fare deltaplano, mi ha dato la possibilità di fare
not in a month, but in a month and a half, I began to ride my motorcycle, even if everyone around me was against it. I took up all the sports I'd been told to give up. I even began hang gliding regularly.
Mi ha dato il massimo della potenzialità. Comunque, per me, oltre a tutto questo, la cosa più importante è quella che dopo questa cura, diciamo, io lo posso chiamare disintossicante, poi tu la chiamerai nei tuoi termini.
Mi sta bene.
Però
For me,
disintossicante...
the most important thing to say is that the detoxifying diet and Paul's work have allowed me to return to efficiency and to reach a higher level of physical strength than I've ever had before, even before the pleurisy.
Oppure con colite spastica, cioè io mi ricordo che le festività spesso e volentieri me le facevo a letto con qualcosa del genere e poi appunto avevo una salute precaria, basta un colpo d'aria che mi veniva qualcosa, per me quello che mi ha dato...
Before that, I always had some problem. Bronchitis, colitis. I always passed the holidays in bed. I got a cold just like that. I was fed up with being in bed. Now I haven't taken medicines for years, and I'm much stronger.
Professional formation. How does a tree get so big without medicine? Today's topic is, where do all those respiratory, dermatological, gynecological, and sexual problems come from? It sounds like a lot of questions to put together, but let's look at the key to them all. We've said it again and again, so many times that I hope it's gotten into your heads like it's gotten into mine. When the body is overloaded, something is going to break down. Let's see what happens when the overload is toxic, even when it comes from tiredness, because we've said that eating when we're too tired or when we're upset blocks the food, and that food turns into poison. Plus, smoking, drinking, medicines, recreational drugs, and industrial and environmental toxins. These are enemies within our bodies which block the lymphatic system and creates malfunctions everywhere along the muscles and the organs. Now, when the level of toxins in the body is increasing, we have only 5 ways of getting rid of these poisons. First, the intestines, as we've said. Second, the kidneys. Sooner or later, having to process all those blood-bound poisons, they will be overloaded too. So there's already a cause of cysts, sand, and stones in the kidneys. Then third, we come to breathing. The intestinal blockage is already impeding the free movement of the diaphragm and limiting the oxygen supply to the body. Now, the bloodstream will start pumping poisons into all parts of the respiratory system. Then fourth, there's the skin, because when the intestines, kidneys, and lungs are intoxicated, the poison has to come out somewhere. Dermatitis is what gets out. What can't builds up under the skin. Then fifth, there's the reproductive system. I know that almost 95% of the women here have a painful menstrual cycle and much worse, because this system simply can't compensate for the toxic overload of the other systems. So, let's try and sum up. Too many poisons. Nobody says stop or teaches how to. Overload for the intestines, the kidneys, the lungs, the skin, and the sexual cycles.